Today, he would tell you this because I heard him say it over 100 times. He would say his first career was out of service to his country. His second career in the civil service was out of necessity. He was there to provide for his family. But when he was elected chief, it was out of love for his people. And all of us that knew Chief, he could love like nobody else. He could discipline like nobody else also. Chief always taught by example. You know, I never remember one time of him setting me down and telling me how to do something. He always led by example, and he expected you to watch and to learn from his example. And, you know, I never knew when I was going to get called into his office what he had to tell me. I'll never forget, this was probably 2 or 3 years before he passed away. Chief always was planning. He was always planning ahead. Nothing ever happened by surprise or accident with him. It was all planned. And I remember the day that he called me in his office and said, you know, Bill, he said, I want you to, I'm planning my funeral out, and when I have my funeral, I want you to speak at my funeral. And I looked at him, I said, Chief, I actually think you're going to outlive me. And I actually did. You know, we just thought, you know, Chief, but he was elected here in 1983. He served 28 years, longer than any chief of the Wyandotte Nation. In 1983, there were 5 employees. He fired one of them, I think, the first week. The building that we're in, an administration building there, was the only building that was here, and the tribe was not even occupying that building. They couldn't afford the utilities. They were renting an office space from the BIA, the Bureau of Indian Affairs, in Miami. And the first thing that Chief began to work on was our Constitution. Our Constitution hadn't been revised since 1937. He got our Constitution through in a record amount of time. And if you ever was in the room when Chief called the Bureau of Indian Affairs in Washington, D.C., you was in for a surprise, because when Chief called up there, things began to happen. Because Chief would not take no for an answer. Chief would not take the runaround from them. He always wanted to talk to the person that was in charge, and he would not get off the phone until he talked to that person. And everybody in our building could hear it because Chief always was on speakerphone. But from 1983 until 2011, he served as chief of the Wyandotte Nation. Chief and our board of directors, some of them that are here today. I know Juanita's, I've seen her earlier.